Larry Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Let's jump right in. I know you're in between meetings, and so tell the audience about your business as it is today.
Thank you, Jeffrey. We're very blessed. 35 years after the day I started, we have almost 500 full-time employees. We're 100% employee owned. We're faith-based. The work that we did, my background is forestry, but we started in lawn care because of its renewable ability. And then we started pruning 5 years later. Last year, we ran about $56 million in revenue. And with a nice bottom line, when you're 100% employee owned ESOP and you're an S corporation, you don't pay federal or state taxes. Sounds like a wonderful plus, right? Well, what does have, everybody has an expense, and the expense is when this old Larry Ryan retires or another employee retires or leaves us, and we have to write them a check for the stock. And so that about equals the savings and taxes. But the choice is, do I give it to my employees or do I give it to the government? Now, the government gets it. It's a qualified retirement plan. So when the employee then is time for him or her to retire, then they pay taxes on the money. But it gives you cash flow to grow your company. So we're in lawn care, tree care, which I'll oftentimes refer to as urban forestry or forestry. We do irrigation, we are landscaping. We also, a few years ago, good or bad decision, it's been good for us, but it came with the downside. We bought a small engine shop that sells steel, STIHL equipment. It's used to sell lawnmowers. We sell a few, not a lot, but we do a lot of maintenance on lawnmowers. So we started with 2 employees, and today there are 7 full-time employees that, again, are employee owners. So they get to benefit from the Ryan umbrella. We get to benefit from, there are certain things that we don't fix, and we can run warranty work through that shop and that sort of thing. We buy through the shop, but when you sell that kind of equipment, the margin is so slim. You would not own a business, that kind of a business, to save 20% on a chainsaw or a blower, weed eater, string trimmer.
So give us the mix in percentage or dollars. Lawn care, tree care, now you do landscape and whatever else.
And this can be approximate if you could allow me to talk off the top of my head, but lawn care applications, seeding, fungicide, all that, fertility, it's about a little over 40% of the business. Forestry, which is both pruning and plant health, is probably closer than to 35% of the business, maybe 30.
Okay.
And then irrigation is between 5 and 10. Landscaping is the rest. Landscaping has exploded in growth.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're real careful. We want to keep it a small percentage because there's a recession coming. Is it coming the last half of this year, next year, whatever? We don't know. Apparently, there's signs that it's here right now, but landscaping will get hurt worse in a recession, those big dollar ticket items, than lawn applications or spraying an apple tree or whatever it is. So
I doubt you will feel a small recession the way you're set up.
Well, in 2008, I was a friend that was in landscape design, install, and some maintenance. I was whining to him about, we've only grown 1% this year, 1%, 1.5%. And he said, Larry, I am down 25%.
Sure.
So we will scramble. The other thing we do, Jeffrey, is we use, and you're familiar with this, but Great Game of Business, that program out of Springfield, Missouri, we teach financial literacy to our people with that, and we do our planning with that model. So yeah, it's been good for us.
I want to get into that in a second, but I have a question about the ESOP.
Yes.
I've been told somewhere along the way that ESOPs have an advantage for buying other companies, but I never really remembered what that advantage was. Is it that you're not currently paying tax, and so you have a bit of extra cash flow that you can then invest in other companies, or is it something else?
That's a good question, and I like how you phrase that. I don't know that we have the extra cash. You know, one of the things with our model of everybody being full-time, our payroll is over 55% of our gross revenues. And You go to True Green or any of those companies, they would have a heart attack if that was the case. But I look at my age. I'll take you back to the 70s, 1970s. And my favorite author was Peter Drucker, Management Task Responsibilities and Practices. And he talked about the social responsibility of every organization.
Yeah.
Okay. And then a few years later, I read another encyclical by the Catholic bishops. And again, the same subject. What is the social responsibility? So can you raise a family on a 9-month-a-year job? And so at Ryan, we've made a commitment. Everybody, except for those people we hire for the summer, and there's one or two exceptions of employees. That'd be crazy to say everybody, but almost everybody is full-time.
Mm.
So we have to create enough revenue in 10 months to carry 12 months of salary. Now, what do we do in those other 2 months? Well, you don't just stop. You know, we do a little bit of dormant seeding on turf. We do get out if the ground's not frozen, install an irrigation system. We prune a lot. But we're just getting started with this. I think we could ramp up our winter pruning so much beyond where we are now. We had an opportunity to bid on removing 25 trees for a large organization. It's an organization I'm a part of, a church. We said, would you consider putting it off till next winter? You know, we got emerald ash borer, they're dead. We have Scotch pine, they're dead from nematodes, et cetera. And they said, yeah. I said, why? Oh, we'll pay for it. You know, I too am a stockholder in this company, even though it's 100% employee owned, and we're cashing out a little bit of our stock from time to time, not because we want the money, not because we need the money. Kathy and I are very conservative, very old farmers. We're taking that money out and we're giving it to our church. And so we'll buy the service, pay the company. We paid the taxes on the money. So it's everything is above board. We don't do anything that is off color. We try not to. I'm sure I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I could, have nightmares thinking about a few of those. But the idea is we can work with our customers to do some things that benefit both of us. Now, we're unique. We charge above market. We very seldom get a bid because we're the lowest price. We charge above market. We pay above market to our employees. Everything we do, we try to invest a portion of that back into continual training. For what did I say? I think just the other day, an exact account is probably 480 employees, give or take one. We have graduates from 80 different colleges. We're based in Kansas City. Our closest land grant college is Kansas State University. I spent my first 2 years there. I knew that college. I walked on campus. That was the first one I recruited from. So we have over 80 grads from there. So we have a heavy educated population in our employee workforce. So consequently, we're trying to think all the time, how can we continue to make it better? I literally want a county agent mentality walking on your lawn when we do an application. You say, let's say I'm your lawn applicator. You say, Larry, I got a problem with my ewe over there. And I said, well, they don't have problems except too much water. Let's look. And most of the time, unless it's just, desert, but oh, you've got a downspout right beside that, or, I point something else out and I try to make positive suggestions. And you say, well, who is this guy? The last lawn care guy, they just squirted the fert and away they went. Well, we want to be different. We want to be a role model company that lifts this industry, and we'll share a lot with other companies. Why not?
Sure.
We'll all win.
One last question about acquisitions, then I'll move on. I noticed it's in your signature, so I know that's something you are actively doing. If we looked at your total revenue, 55 million, what percentage is like organic or dollars, and what percentage came from bringing on other companies? Okay, that's real easy. I also spent 10 years in the restaurant business. It's easy to fudge figures, but I would guess much less than 25% is through acquisitions. Okay, that's good. We want organic growth. Even if we acquire somebody, we want, this is my story, and I think it's really fairly accurate. I was at the University of Georgia speaking to a group of department heads last week, and I shared with them that I want to see the industry change. So we go to somebody my age that wants to sell his company. Here's what we find. The equipment's worn out. The people are worn out, poorly trained, whatever. A lot of them have bad health care, bad dental care. The building's worn out. I'm getting a customer list. We don't want most companies. So I stumble on this company back east. And the only reason I would even consider it, why would I want to
go somewhere they got to drive 10 hours to is it's a larger company. But the owner's faith-based, he's realizing in his 60s, I'm living very well. My people are okay, but they could be better.
Hmm.
But he's never denied them. He's never tried to, he's got a nice building, nice equipment, et cetera. Now, if they were to join us, those are 1 in 1,000. That's who we want. We don't want the average company because he's actually invested quite a bit back into training. I found a company in a town much closer than this. They're running $4 million a year. They're also employee owned. We're going to talk with them. Okay. There's problems with everyone, and the employees are not like ours. We bought a company in Omaha, Nebraska last year, and this guy is running $6 million a year. But he said, Larry, it's almost all my services I have to rebid every year. A lot of landscaping and commercial maintenance, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
He wants the renewable lawn care that we have with the residential, and also plant health with tree care. It's a totally different ballgame. So the problem we have with commercial is bottom dollar gets the job, and we just don't go that. We do commercial, but it's the people that say, I love the way you take care of my $1 million house. Do the same thing with my business.
Nice.
Yeah, we do. We'll do it. So
you're faith-based. Tell me just tell me a bit more about it, how it either benefits your employees or your culture or your clients or
all of the above, right?
Sure.
So,
or how it comes through in a strategy perspective.
Jeffrey, first is faith's real important to me, right? 4 things in life everybody wants. We want people we love. We want people who love us. We want variety. I mean, look at the goofy things we do for variety. We buy huge mobile homes that we don't use very much. We go to basketball games across the state that we drive hours to get there and all of, but it's all our alma mater. But we do it so we have bragging rights the next day or whatever. And the last thing is we want a deep sense of purpose. And we get that from the people that love us and that we love, the work we do, our faith, and all the above. So I've read scripture for years. Okay. And really a lot of the things we do in business came out of those readings. If you kind of take them serious, don't hog money, don't do this, be socially responsible, give back to those, do much is given, much is expected, all of that. So I got involved just a bit with one of our customers who had unconventional business network. How do you bring faith to the workplace? And I had a mission statement. I rewrote it because I was working with an Arboretum here in town. And one day he said, Larry, how are you bringing faith to the workplace? And I spent a month and we rewrote the mission. I did rewrote the mission statement. We're going to serve God by helping our clients create beautiful, sustainable landscapes while we create opportunities for our associates and business partners. Really, you're a business partner. I mean, to the industry, you're making people better. I really have never talked to you one-on-one over the years. I always hear about this Jeffrey Scott guy, and then you contacted me. Okay, I owe you to do a really good job if I'm going to podcast with you because you're giving back all the time. I go to Helen and I buy some stuff. If I beat them down on price where they had to sell to me at market or below, at cost or below cost, I might gain today. I've lost in the long run because they need profits to invest back into great salespeople, great facilities, and all that. I don't want to overpay for it, but they need to make a reasonable profit. Yeah, we're bigger. We can get a little better price than the little guy and that sort of thing. But we really do try to keep those things in mind. So I think that faith-based, when we rewrote that, put it on our website, it went out on remember we used to have paper tickets and you'd leave it with customers. Okay, they look at that. The mission is to serve God. They go, oh, if I'm of a different sexual orientation, I say, what are these Christian guys or whatever they are doing with my money? Are they gay? We've had calls like that. And for the most part, it's been real interesting. We're called to love everybody. And one guy, he was a smart fella. He was a business consultant. And he said, what are you doing with my money? And lived in a wonderful house. I said, look, my job as a Christian is to love you, which means want your greater good. So if I work on your property, when I leave, that beautiful lawn and those nicely maintained trees and all that represents who I am. You need to feel that. And if you felt anything but that I've used you in any way, I've failed. In my faith, I failed. He kept trying to twist it a little bit on me, and I wouldn't deviate from that. Because I shouldn't deviate from that. Finally said, okay, we do business. So I cannot be greedy. If I'm greedy, if I'm building I'm not saying lake houses and all that are wrong, mountain houses. Someday, I'm 72. I thought maybe in the next 5 years I'd get a little cabin somewhere. Probably not. I'll probably just get a vacation rental by owner for a week. I can barely manage one house, but we're really careful with what we do with our money, Jeffrey. And it's really worked for us. Our employees know it, and they are busting their tails to grow our company because they know it's their company, our company, not Larry's company.
So, Mr. Ryan, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a saint in heaven. Really, I'm comfortable where I am. I am blessed with an introverted woman for a wife that I've been married to for 49 years. She's tolerated me. She's got a wonderful sense of presence. It's such a gift. I don't want anything different than what I got right now. And I've had a lot of struggles in my life. I'm one of those insecure people, one of 10 kids that I never thought I was good enough, Jeffrey. I mean, I've almost been envious of people like you that are so poised and present yourself so well. And yet God made me the way he wants me, because it drives me to continually be better, to continually make things better for my people. That's my goal. Yeah. And I'm not even doing it anymore. They're doing it. I've had a lot of pride to get rid of. Guys, I want to show you how to do everything. They don't want to know how I do it. They said, Larry, we've had a better way for 10 years than what you do. So
it's interesting how your ESOP, some people I think go into ESOP to get out.
Yeah.
Clearly doesn't seem to be your goal.
No, not at all. No, it's to share ownership. Now, one of the things, I'm an employee too, right? So right now I have the largest amount of shares in the ESOP, which means, let's say it's 5% of the whole company. Well, 5% of $56 million in value, they're going to pay off X amount of dollars when I leave. But if I could reduce that to 2% now, and we're $200 million in revenue when I leave. And so that's what we're actually, I left a meeting with a corporate attorney to come here, because we want to start buying me out at a lesser price than it will be 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or whenever, maybe I hit a telephone pole tomorrow, but to reduce that responsibility and liability to the company. So we're working on that. Yeah, no, I'm here only, okay. It's 70 years, you have some insights into life, and you have some, a little bit of wisdom. I don't want to see a group of managers take over and run the company and get selfish. It'd be so easy to do that. Well, I'm CEO. I should be making $500,000 a year. Pay myself $135,000 a year, and I'm guilty about that. So,
you mean you feel guilty about that?
I feel guilty about that. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Jeffrey, for correcting me.
Well, yes. No, I'm not trying to correct you. I'm just saying.
Oh no, I get it. Yeah, we're dialoguing.
Yeah. So, you mentioned Great Game of Business. All my clients read that book, and but I don't want them all to have to implement it, because like people ask me, hey, should I do profit sharing or should I do open book management? Very personal decision on how an owner wants to get about with money. But I like the concept. It's like religion, I like faith, but I don't want to push it on people. I like the concept of Great Game of Business.
And why don't you want to push it on people? Well, because I'm not totally comfortable, and it's there.
Well, no. Listen, it's a person. I feel incentives are a personal decision that every owner has to be comfortable with themselves. A lot of my clients do it. I sort of bring in the concepts, and many gravitate to it. Some don't. But in any event, I wanted to talk a little bit more about you than me. How have you embraced it, and how have you started talking about educating your employees on finances, which I love, by the way. I mean, I'm definitely a supporter. So tell me how you've done it.
Well, we're going to talk about open book management, but I want to start with the core.
Yeah.
There was a pretty smart man that died in about 2005. His name was John Paul II. And he said, socialism and capitalism are bad because they rob the human psyche of the desire to work hard and be creative. You're creative, Jeffrey. I listen to you enough. You're very creative and you've shared that creativity with others. In business, it's real easy to rob that. I'm just work here. I'm not being paid to. What do you mean you're not being paid to? Why not? We've had incredible ideas come from our employees. Okay. So, but he said selfish capitalism is just as bad as socialism or communism. Isn't that interesting? He said we should call it a free market society and it has to have a heart. Okay, you say, well, I give my people a paycheck. You know, what more could they want? Well, look at the way you live compared to the way that they live first. We've shared a lot over the years. And I will tell you another biblical principle is when you give, you get back in multiples. Okay, maybe I don't have the net worth in this company that CEOs or owners of smaller companies have in their smaller company. You know, I have 460 people here that if most of them said, Larry, would you adopt me? I would feel honored, you know, because that's the quality of people we have. And I've usually not seen that in most other companies to where they're just so impressed with their people that they would want to take them home at night. Okay, and I don't want to embellish it too much. And you say this goofy old guy, but I'm really serious about that. The quality of people. I got to thank you. 2 days ago, it came to my house. My wife opened and read it first from one of our employees that's been here 20 years. He's a team leader with a turf, some what you call turf technicians under him. We call them turf managers. He said, Larry, Larry and Kathy, I cannot thank you for the 20 years I've been here, for the amount of money that I've grown in my stock account, for what it's done for my family, what it's done for me personally. And he said, I've had so much flexibility in recruiting and retaining my people. He said, I feel like I have the best turf team in the entire company. And it was just a wonderful thing. Okay, I called him today. I said, Travis, I should have called you a couple of days ago, right when I first got it, but I forgot. I had it on my clipboard to remind me. The fact that you are as good as you think you are, never stop. We can't ever stop growing this company. We can't ever stop being a better and better image role model company for the industry. What he said was very nice. What we've done for him is small compared to what he's done for the company. So. Jeffrey, and the great game of business and being transparent. I've talked to people over the years for years, just when they asked for help. And I said, do people know what your bids are? No, they go out and they work all day. They don't have a clue. He said, you know, if your people knew what the bids are, they would know whether or not your people were underbidding properties. How can they help you be better? Just be transparent there first. Start there first. Second, if you share a portion back with them on profits, and that's a whole great game concept, I guarantee you'll make more. You'll make more, and now you've put money into their pocket at the same time. We get a compliment. It comes into the call center. They'll forward it to me. Betty was really thrilled with the pruning job yesterday. They'll always send me Betty's phone number, and I'll call her. So, Betty, if we're good, you sounded like you were really pleased. Part of it's because of people like you. When you compliment us, they send it to me, and I call you and tell you thank you, because that's our secret sauce. One of our pieces of our secret sauce that people know that you're watching them, that you care. He said, I started my career the first 15 years. I worked for people that were afraid to compliment us. It was as if Larry gets a compliment, he'll want a raise.
Right.
They don't even think that way. They think, thanks, I really appreciate it. So does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, totally. So how do you go about actually educating your employees on the finances?
They help us put together the budgets. Last year, a turf manager, let's say, did $281,000 in production. Okay, Bob, you did $281,000. We expect people to grow every year, but what do you think you can do this year? And what we would like is, I've been thinking about that. I think I hit $330,000 in production, because that couple of things. I know I can do it, but that'll also step me up a pay grade, and I'd really like that extra money. And besides, I just love my job. And I've got enough neighbors of customers out there that I think I could recruit for customers. I think I can get that kind of revenue, and I think I can get it done. So they set their goal, and then we had everybody's goals up, and we said, okay, we now have a new department, a new branch goal, and we put it all together in the big corporate thing and say, this is our new goal. We're not going to hit 56,000 this year. We're going to hit 70,000. I mean, $70 million this year, not 56 million. And that's really what happened from last year to this year. Now we have two little acquisitions. One was that Omaha company, and one was a small company in North Kansas City. There's never easy. Omaha is a fantastic group of people, a fantastic owner. Oh, converting him to our way of thinking, to our way of recruiting, to our way has still been hard. And Chuck's phenomenal. At the same time, though, we're learning from him. He's a smart guy. He had some unique things that he did that are coming into our company. So we're both benefiting from that. The company in North Kansas City was about $1 million in revenue. I had known them now for 30 years. I just called them a year ago and said, what are you going to do? What's your plans? Well, Marty's thinking about retiring next year. Well, why don't you join us and make that part of your transition plan? And so we talked over last year, through the year, and our guys met them and they met us. We made one mistake. They didn't tell their people they were going to join us. And they had some issues with some of their people so we lost 4 of the 6 employees. And I hate that. I think if we would have told them sooner, I really think those people would have cleaned up their act, or at least 2 of the 4. But Marty and Lori, they're our ambassadors for the company and for the customers. And we've become such good friends this year. They work for us, and Lori works in the office, and Marty does estimates for us and works in the field a bit. Not a lot, but in the field. He's with us every day. I tell you what, if they were my family, I wouldn't be happier, because they were my family.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts you can share, do's and don'ts on integrating an acquisition? It looks simple from the outside. We know it's not.
It's hard. We spend a long time vetting people. We knew the company in Omaha for 2 years. We first met him 10 years ago. We acquired a small company in Springfield, Nebraska, 2003, January 1. I met him in the middle of 2001. We had an ice storm the end of January 2002. He came up. We paid him a fixed fee to come up and prune with us to help our city get out of that ice storm. We got to know him really well in that 2 weeks he worked with us. And his people, we loved them all. Okay, here we are X years later. He's not with us. His people aren't with us. It's a whole new crew, but he stayed with us for 10 years and he learned so much from us. And we learned just as much from him, Jeffrey. He was a phenomenal climber and he loved it. It was definitely a win-win. At the end of 10 years, he left and he started his own tree company, started over again, smaller. It fit his personality. But we talked the other day, and he'll be in town this weekend because the Midwest tree climbing competition is in Kansas City. And so I'll see him. He said, Larry, would you buy me again in about 2 years? I want to fully retire. Well, we'll sure look at it. But, what a blessing. And I tell you, that guy could be a brother too. And please, I don't want to over embellish that. You think, well, Larry thinks he's related to everybody. But, you just flat like people, right? Because a little bit of time with you, I've been very impressed. So get to know them, be willing to pass. If you think you're just buying a customer list, I'd say it doesn't fit our model at all. A lot of lawn care companies, the way they run it, it works. It doesn't work for us at all. If we can't walk away, we're going to lose.
So get to know them personally.
Get to know their people if you can. Get to know their operation model. Does it fit with the way your beliefs?
How long does that take?
We don't care.
No, but I'm asking for somebody listening.
Okay, at least a year.
Okay.
Now, the company in North Kansas City, I knew him from 30 years ago. So we touch base every 10 years. I mean, not very often, but we've done enough things together that I believed in who they were. So we just spent a year last year getting to know them. If you don't spend at least that much, you can waste a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
a long time.
Yeah. I think this deal that I have to be bigger than your company is crazy. And you can't be bigger than your gifts of managing stuff. I'm not a good people leader. I am good at hiring. We brought in some really good people at different jobs. A year and a half ago, our previous CFO retired. 2 years ago, the guy with us now joined us, and we went through a lot of resumes to find this guy. And I still think God had something to do with him. He is so incredibly good. So he's a game changer for us. He's going to take us. I set a goal in 2004 to be at 100 million by 2030. And depending how big this recession is, I think we'll hit it a year or two or three sooner than that, but we'll see.
Who's running your company, or what kind of team is running your company?
Well, the COO and CFO really are directing all traffic. But I will tell you, each turf team has a leader that's running that team. And nobody's out there every day saying, Travis, are you doing this right? Are you doing that right? Travis owns it. And I could just start naming off different team leaders that really run this company.
Yeah.
Now, do we have problems? Sure. We always have a new problem that is kind of serious, but it's solving that problem that makes us so much better. I like telling the story. I have 9 brothers and sisters, and I have a brother that's a year and a half younger than I am. And we started our businesses at the same time. So 35, he's 6 months ahead of me, but 35 and a half years later, we will hit somewhere around 70 million this year. He will break 20 billion with a B this year. Now, he's not in our industry, so it's not a fair comparison. So I don't have to go to sleep at night and say, oh, my younger brother's beating me. But he is. He is in every way. He lives for problems, and he loves problems. He says, okay, Bob, you've got 2 weeks to get an answer for that problem, get it fixed. That's his attitude. Or 3 weeks or a year, or whatever it is. It's his attitude. And, he taught me a lot in that it's not solving the problems that hold us back, isn't it? So, Jeffrey, you understand that well.
Well, for sure, all the time. Hey, you're a big company, and I get feedback from listeners, 2 different kinds of feedback. One is they love being inspired by larger companies. Other people tell me, oh, Jeff, you only work with the largest companies, and and they're kind of not put off, but they can't relate. And of course, that's not true. So let's go back in time when you were 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Was your growth sort of steady, or did you wake up one day and sort of like make a change that changed everything for you?
No, neither. It was steady. Steady, but it's exponential, right? So when I was in the restaurant business, one of the 3 investors that owned our franchise had me doing pro formas on spreadsheets, Lotus 1, 2, 3, before Excel.
Yeah.
Okay. I fell in love with what a spreadsheet can do for you. And so I spent hours on it. I'm ADD. When I say I spend hours, I'll spend 10 minutes creating it. You can do amazing things in 10 minutes to 60 minutes on it, creating a spreadsheet. You can actually make it pretty complicated because of all the control paste and macro functions on them. But in 2004, we were doing, in 1994, starting in 87, I think we did $980,000 that year. Now remember, restaurants, and I was working for millionaires, and they wanted this thing to grow very rapidly. And so I was used to thinking this way, even though I'm not even analytic first. I'm emotional first, like a salesman, and analytics second. I'm so blessed to have a science degree because that forces you to think analytic all the time. So 1994, we did $980,000, and I projected out the next 10 years and ran it on a spreadsheet. And I said, guys, in 2004, we're going to hit $6.5 million. Now, I had 9 employees, a little tiny office. We had 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And one of the guys took that printed sheet and made some notes on it, stuck it in his file cabinet until about 2005 or 6. Well, we didn't hit 6.5 million in 2004. We had 7.5 million. So he pulls that out a year or two later, a year or two after my 10-year goal. And he looked at that and he said, oh, he said, Larry, what you didn't know the day you gave us that spreadsheet, you walked out of the room and he said, all of us laughed at you.
Mm,
He said, we're not laughing anymore.
yeah.
Okay. I was so blessed when I was selling pizzas, and that one of the partners, one of the millionaires, was a periodontist, the dentist that cut your gums, periodontal disease. And Mike was always pushing me to think different. He took me to a seminar on hiring. It's called Strength Finders, Dr. Don Clifton.
Yep.
It's called, I'm sorry, now the name slips my mind. I'll think of it in a second. The book that they wrote is called Strength Finders.
You mean Marcus Buckingham?
When it was before him, it was Don Clifton. Marcus Buckingham was when they sold to Gallup, then Marcus joined them. Because when Don got old, his son's with the company today, but they sold to Gallup. They were in Omaha, Nebraska. It's called selection research. Well, the deal on selecting people, if you want your lawn care, your tree care company to grow, if you don't hire growth-oriented people, guess what? You won't grow. I mean, yes, you can bring in marketing systems and all that, but it's really growth-oriented people that make companies grow. Okay. I'm very growth-oriented, but I think they look at 35 talent strengths. I only have about 5 or 6 of them. I'm very short. I'm not a good manager because I'm high woo. And when you're high woo, you second guess every decision you make with people. Well, high woo is a great sales personality. Assertive, woo, and relationship builder. You put those 3 together and that's your salesman, right? Well, I took that stuff kind of to heart. And so we try to hire overall people that are a little bit more outgoing, people that are definitely growth oriented, people that want to make a difference in other people's lives. And I know people that fill their staff, they just hire somebody that comes in and gives them a resume. Well, let's see, yeah, when could you start? Okay. So the second thing we were taught is what's your most important priority as a manager? And I was with a bunch of restaurant people and they gave the leader of the group 8 different priorities, or 8 of us. He said, guys, until you figure out that recruiting and hiring great people should be your number 1 priority, you'll never have a consistent number 2. So when do you hire? All the time. When do you recruit? All the time. When do you hire your very best people? When you don't need them. Mm-hmm. Why? Because when you need them, you start lowering mentally, almost unconsciously, lowering your standards because I've got to fill this spot.
Right.
But when you don't need somebody, the question you ask is, would this person, if I hire this person, make us a better company? And if they don't, pass on them. So that was really the foundation of us growing and being the type of company, Jeffrey, that hopefully somebody like you would admire 35 years later. Okay. I struggle with that insecurity, right? And I have good days and bad days. Things can go wrong, and I don't want to see anybody for about 3 days until I rebuild. Okay, Larry, you're okay. Get out there and go make another deal or whatever. But you know what? I'll make fun of myself, but I really have struggled with that. And I had 5 years, or a few years ago, really tough years that I thought I no longer bring value to the group here. I need to leave. And I have a vice president that has been a wonderful friend. One day I was ready to quit. And he said, Larry, you're not quitting. I do have the people's hearts. And that's what Steve saw in me. He wanted us to not lose that in a leader. The last couple of years are really getting good for me again, because I now again see the future. And the future is our industry could be so much different. Jeffrey, if we opened the books, Jeffrey, if we hired better, Jeffrey, if we said, folks, even if I don't share the actual ownership, I'm going to give you a portion of the profits every year because I think you have the right people. I have the right people. I think you are the people that can change this industry. They've got to feel a part of the dream too. If they don't feel a part of the dream, you know, I tell the story a lot. I like to embellish things a little bit to make a point, but okay, I'm building my second lake house. I'm putting an addition on the front house. I drive into my new Mercedes and I say, guys, things are tight this year. I can't give you a raise. They see through that stuff so fast. Yep. Okay.
I understand. You're preaching.
They know when you're telling the truth.
Sure. Absolutely. So I appreciate you sharing that you were feeling down there for a few years. I mean, I think it's a struggle. And
it is.
you're saying it's a struggle for me too. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but the other thing, I love sayings. Chief Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes of the Supreme Court years ago told his daughter, honey, life will be easier when you realize it is supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Okay, let's quit trying to look for utopia. Let's say, how can we solve this hard problem? How can we all feel better knowing that we did one more thing great? You know, one of the great departments in our company is irrigation service, because what's their job all day long? They fix problems all day long. They solve one problem after another after another. Jeffrey, I think I need to go into irrigation service for about 2 years. Because the problem with a president, CEO type position is you're changing all the time. So you aren't doing the same thing day after day. And it's really, I made pizzas for 8 years when I was in the restaurant business. Even when I was a supervisor, I'd walk into a store and make pizzas at lunch. So at the end of 8 years, I made a better pizza than I did the first year. And I love doing it with the people.
Yeah.
You know, they knew that. And we should always be getting better and better and better and better.
Was that your education? Was the 8 years in the restaurant business?
I did actually 9.5. I did a year and a half in a fish and chip thing and selling fish and chips in Wichita, Kansas, a little startup that went from 0 to 1 to 35 stores in just a couple of years. The interesting thing about that job is I worked for the franchisor. That was the guy that started Pizza Hut. He was one of the 3 partners in that venture. He was probably in his 40s and I was in my early 20s, and he was very intimidating, big, direct. He taught me a lot too about, number one, how tough franchising is. It sounds easy, but you know, look at most franchise concepts go broke because it's really hard to control that guy out there. And he told me a great wisdom thing that I've shared with a lot of classes, horticulture students. I say, how many of you want to start a business? And half of the hands go up in the college. And said, okay, I worked for the guy who started Pizza Hut, and I wanted to start my own tree company when I was 27 because forestry is my background. And he said, how old are you? I said, 27. He said, Larry, wait at least until you're 30. He said that we have a lot of franchisees at Pizza Hut, and I will tell you, it's 30. There's something magical about it. They really start understanding how the different parts work together. You have to have a good team. You have to be fair to them. You have to have a good store manager. You have to. And so then I waited till I was 37, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
So you were lawn care and tree care. I mean, those are your 2 big pillars.
Started in lawn care.
What's the synergy between the 2? I mean, I can guess, I can imagine the synergy, but tell me from
If you let it, there's synergy between every part of the company. And today we have a term of starting people, we call them field apprentices, and we have them work in the different departments before we lock them in. And it's new enough. We don't do that with every single person because we have employment needs like everybody else. But okay, they have a tree problem. You know, we can only get about 15 or 20, maybe 30% of our customers to use our tree department too. But some people then like what we do with trees and they'll pick us up as a tree customer, but they don't have anything else. And our guys say, you know, when you have a person who really wears your logo proudly, communicates well, you know, you like our tree. If you like our tree, you will love our lawn care. So then they cross-sell lawn cares, then they cross-sell irrigation. And that happens a lot in our company. And we're growing a lot faster than if we were just one department. But the other thing is, if you do a bad job in anyone, you can lose the entire thing. So it really calls you to excellence. And who taught me that was McDonald's. Don't start doing another service until you have your one service doing it so well, and you've got a leader that can run it without you, and then you start the other service, or else you run it and the other person who's really well versed can run the other one. In the early years, I started every department. You know, we were lawn care, and then I started tree pruning, and I started spraying first, plant health care. And then I started pruning with another guy who joined us, young man right out of college, and he wanted to be a arborist. And so he and I started, and I would prune with him during the day and do bids at night and on weekends. And oh gosh, I've worked 7 days a week for so much over the years. It was awfully hard on my family, but that's how we did it. But the synergy of how the departments work together, if everybody makes a good impression. I always say, if the person wearing your logo isn't, okay, I grew up on a farm. Farmers usually get along with their sons. Usually the son takes it over. Son's sort of wearing the farmer's logo, and that's the attitude. And if they aren't that quality, a father-son attitude, it doesn't work. But it's
like
all based on quality, isn't it, Jeffrey?
How do you manage the gaps? I've done some client focus groups, and I found that the client that uses like more of the services in a company, they see more room for the gaps. And so there's really a bigger opportunity for them to be unhappy unless you really are seamless in the communication and how it all works together with the client. How do you do that?
We're not seamless, but I would say we're pretty darn close. We continually work on being seamless all the time. I told you the people that call in and thank us. So I get to talk with a lot of those people. They say, Larry, I've used irrigation, I've used turf care, now I'm doing the pruning. I have not yet had a bad experience with the company. Now, does that mean they haven't had a bad experience? No. But it means if they did, the person fixed it on his or her own.
Yeah.
And if you fix it, you have a wonderful opportunity there to make a deeper friendship, a deeper connection with the customer. So in about 1990, I got our trade magazines when I was those 8 years selling pizza. But in the 90s, the first 2 years, I was a one-man show, grew to 600 accounts, and then I hired another person, et cetera, et cetera. It's been growing ever since, right? I was reading the articles in the trade magazines, and they go through phases. Today, everything needs to be electric. Well, that's nonsense. I mean, I know why they do that, because that's who's buying the ads, so they let them run the stories. But the stuff isn't, the batteries aren't big enough yet for commercial. For a few things they are. Okay, but back then it was get rid of your service calls. They cost you a lot of money. And we had a 5-year phase where that was the hot topic. You know what I found service calls did? A lot of times people call in, I had a recorder, call them back. Can you come and give me a bid? Yes, I'd leave it on their door. They call back, start service. I like the price and all that. I heard good things about you. So I go out and do the application. Months later, they'd say, I've got weeds. Well, I was still a one-man show. I thought, okay, if I save all these service calls up till Saturday night or Sunday, will I be able to get them all done? I was worried I wouldn't, because I was getting a couple a day or bids all mixed in. I decided I would do my bids and my service calls first thing the next morning. Sometimes they'd be there at 6:30 in the morning doing the bids, and they'd be walking around, they'd be looking out the window with their cup of coffee. Who is this? Yeah, who? And then they'd see the logo, and they'd see the red truck in the front yard and that sort of thing. And I'd leave them on. So what, maybe they'd come to the door, or I'd call them as I know we had no cell phones back then. I actually call them at night. But anyway, they'd say, you're here first thing. Yeah, I said, I want to get it taken care of. I want to know what your problem is, et cetera, and I want it fixed. If it was my yard, I'd want to know that guy really cared. Okay, it was talking points, right? I was doing it really so that I would never get behind, because I'm paranoid about getting behind. That's one of my goofy things about my personality. They thought, this guy really cares. It was the best PR thing I could have done, was doing that service call. Okay, we started pruning, and we were trying to get rid of mulch. And I showed people how you could take our rough wood chips and put them around the backyard. And I would draw out little things for them and all this. And you put it 3 inches deep, it'll break down, and put your ground cover and your shrubs in that. Then later top dress it with purchase mulch. But I'll never forget, we dumped a load of chips on a guy's yard and in his driveway. And he looked at, it was a Vermeer or whatever, but sometimes if the knives aren't sharp, you get big old stringy chips. It's not like what you get out of the bags. It's not a color. This man was so particular about his yard, so anal. He was so angry. How can I spread these? And I got to his house that afternoon. I got home. My wife was working in the office in it, which was our home. Larry, this guy's mad. It was a couple miles from the house. I remember his house, probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, what's the problem? He said, how can I spread these? I said, whoa, wait a minute. Let me show you. Took the wheelbarrow, ran a couple loads out, put them in front of where he was putting them out. And he had gone to the store and got little dowel pins and cut them to 3 inches long and put them around the yard. And that was the height he would spread the chips to. I said, look, you just spread them out. You get these long stringy things, flip them with your fork out in the bare ground in front of it. You've already laid out your border. You're going to mulch out. Now, see how we rake across and we just cover up those long stringy, the trashy looking ones. And when you get done, you have a nice, well, I was an expert at doing it because I'd spread a lot of mulch. He got done. We did about 20 feet of his bed for him. Oh, be darned. He was no longer mad. He was a little embarrassed. I said, no, we should have videos. We don't have videos to show you. It wasn't your fault. This was my fault for not explaining it better. But, I had a friend then for a long time. I mean, that happened over and over, stuff like that again. And, I've worked with guys for years, my employees, and they see me do stuff like that and talk to customers that way. Okay, there's a lot that don't even know me today, but we still have spread that attitude throughout the company, Jeffrey.
Love it.
I take way too long answering questions.
You embrace the problems and embrace the complaints. We have a couple minutes left here. Tell me your predictions for the future, not for your company, but for the industry, for the future.
Both. I think our industry is going to get better. I think we have to go away from selfishness. We have to have owners that will invest more in their people, that hire people for life, not at the lowest wage that I can pay you for life. But okay, our guys are starting at 40 in turf and they're making 60 we have people making 90 that are our high producers and grow their routes and all that sort of stuff. And that's really what we want. It's going to take a while for that to happen across the board because I don't see private equity necessarily as helping us in the short run. What they're doing is they're buying companies up and they'll buy the company here in Kansas City, another one, and they're growing it to a certain amount and they're reselling it. Are they really investing back in employees? Because what's really important is top line growth, even more than bottom line growth in that deal. And the next equity company buys and says, man, if I could take it up, it's kind of a shell game.
It's a shell game that leads to taking the company public, presumably.
Yes. And I have a friend who works for a very large company in the United States that has a branch here. And they started their branch here about the same year I did. And I talked to him the other night because he had read an article that was in one of the trade magazines about us being number 37 in philosophy and all that. He said, Mark, why is it that in 35 years in Kansas City, we're almost 40 million, 35 million, and your branch that started at the same time with your big company name behind it is doing maybe 2 or 3 million? And I think I know why. It's one is they're running it like a technician. And in our case, we're running it like, hey, if we're doing a really good job with service, shouldn't we be rescuing that person across the street that we see the competitors sign go in the yard and we know they're getting a bad job? And that happens over and over again as we're rescuing customers that are poorly taken care of, and we're rescuing employees that are not being treated well by other employers and said, if you come to work for us.
So you like private equity because it feeds you new clients and employees. Is that what I just heard? Well,
it doesn't hurt us any. I'll word it that way.
Yeah.
I don't think it hurts us. Does it really help our industry? I don't think it does. Eventually, I think we could all be charging half again more than what we're charging today. And I think we should be. Okay, we're in tree care too, pruning, et cetera, and I absolutely love that. But that should be 2x what the pricing is today. There are so many people that do that they aren't taking into account the risk. I've got a friend that does it. He's a one-man show. You need to be doubling. He fell one day, and if his wife wouldn't have been close, his heart stopped. He hit so hard, broke both legs. He'd be dead today. So this is stupid what you're charging, Pat. Raise your prices. I know, Larry, but I can't do it. These are my friends. If they're really your friends, Pat, they should not have to be paying your health care when you're old and disabled. You should be paying your own because you've charged enough that you can do that. So,
amen.
Yeah.
Any other predictions for the industry?
When I talked to those professors at the University of Georgia, it was 8 or 9 colleges. I said, guys, think about it different. We got to tell our story different. Just a second. This little book, All About Lawns by Ortho. I don't know who actually wrote it, but Ruckus Swall at the University of Nebraska was one of the editors. Nick Christensen at Iowa State, I think, provided a lot of the pictures. I took this book to that meeting and I printed out a page 1 on it. So you guys can have a copy and go buy the book. I didn't get permission to do that, so somebody's going to be after me. But whoever wrote this, think about this for our story, Jeffrey. There's nothing like a lawn, large or small, urban or suburban. Lawns are irreplaceable pieces of fabric of American life. Our lawns are the welcome mats to our homes. They present our best face to visitors and neighbors. They frame our houses, they cradle our children, they connect our property with our neighbors, but they also serve as our private green space.
Yeah.
Lawns give us daily contact with nature, but they are also a symbol of our care. When well kept, they're a sign of our order and commitment to our neighborhood. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, one of the things that really worries me is pesticides, is that we're going to lose them. Because in our industry, we've got the organic type people, the green people saying they're harmful, they're poisonous, they're killing you, etc. When you use them right, they're not harmful. They're tremendous labor-saving tools. They make us more productive per man hour. Probably we need to dress our people a little better when we spray. We need to make sure they're wearing long pants and not sandals. And I see so many infractions of how they're used. They're important. Second is, I think we have to work together as an organization to present a better picture of what we actually do, how we actually make this industry better. I'm driving to Manhattan, Kansas. A friend of mine has just retired from teaching there in horticulture, and then the department head, we're going to dinner tonight. I keep telling the story to them all the time. I want a pesticide class in every university where the professor believes in them as a tool, where he tells both sides. I was with one of our manufacturers yesterday of a major pesticide in our industry. And I said, you need to supply us with more material that literally, and we need to start marketing this and how much they benefit mankind, these products. I call them labor-saving products, plant protection products. Okay, I grew up on a farm. We would literally, if we quit using these products today, we would have half of the world's population starve tomorrow. They are that important. Tell the truth. We all need to be seeking the truth, telling the truth. You know, this green movement, I'm a forester. I graduated in 72 from the University of Montana. I thought I was an environmentalist, and I jumped on every bandwagon. You know, do we need windmills? Do we need this? Do we need that? The future is in nuclear. It's in using pesticides. It's in genetic modification. The future is probably not electric cars for a while, but I don't mind them. For a while, it's still in petroleum. We should have nuclear energy. We should be charging twice for our services, and our communities should be more beautiful than they are today. And our people should be paid a good wage with full benefits. And there should be more Jeffreys out there telling the story and getting us excited about how great an industry this can be.
More Jeffreys and Larrys.
Okay, I'll be satisfied with more use, but yeah, we need to figure out how to make another one of me. Oh. Okay.
You said there was 9 more or 8 more?
They're in every other profession. I'm the only guy that was crazy enough to do this in our family. My dad, he was a farmer. We had grain elevators. We did custom application on farmers' fields with post-emergent, pre-emergent products when I was 15 years old. That's how I worked my way through the first 2 years of college.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate your time. I know you have to run. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us here today.
And thank you. And I really appreciate what you did. You're an excellent interviewer. You kind of bring the best out in people. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Have a great day.